Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the first ever player review on the channel. The player review this time around will be the Ashley Cole. Obviously, if you've seen the most recent episode of the Chelsea Road to Glory, you will know that I have completed it immediately. The day that it was released, I got it done. And since there is no promo team that includes a Chelsea player, and there's not much for me to do on the game right now besides play some games for some sort of content, I decided it would be best to release a video that basically goes over what I think of the Ashley Cole card, and maybe if you guys enjoyed this video, then I could make another one. So we're gonna start off with the teams we used Ashley Cole in. The actual in-game formation, however, was the same across both teams. Both used a 4-1-2-1-2, the second variation, the narrow variation. So with that being said, as you've seen, we did have pretty much a very solid squad with Jorginho there, Kai Havertz, Cuadrado there, and obviously the main man of today's episode, Ashley Cole. And we gave him a shadow because obviously that was going to be the best chem style that I would give him. Maybe an anchor would be an exception to this, because I would say maybe he doesn't necessarily need the full pace because of the fact that the way we play, our fullbacks tend to stay back most of the game, and given his high stamina, I don't think he would need that much of a pace boost since he's not going up and down the field as much. However, due to the formation being very narrow, I manually make them go on runs instead of having them automatically do that for me. So he needs those pace boosts in those areas. And in the second team, as you can see here, we changed it up a bit. I remember that Timo Werner had a left mid card and Pedro had come out and we packed him, so I knew I could throw him in there. Werner obviously playing second striker with Drogba and Pedro playing in that camp position. We basically went with that team after we had gotten rid of Kai Havertz. I know he's in the picture as you can see, but we did end up selling him just before that Chelsea Real Madrid game. So as you can see here on the screen, we have essentially our two left backs that we have used throughout the game cycle. Chilwell obviously came first when he scored the one goal against Brentford in the away game, which was a super long time ago, and he got this inform because of it. So we played with a fullback that was essentially 89 pace, and a lot of the time he was leaving us with a lot of gaps. I think at some point the instructions had him at step up in one of the defensive instructions that is, I think, new to FIFA 22. So he had that, and that would leave a lot of space, especially with the fact that this formation allows that left back and the right back to be isolated, especially when there are two or more attackers trying to push up on the wings. So it becomes very difficult for Chilwell. And when Azpilicueta's wild card came out, obviously we bought him for a right back position, but at some point when we had Cuadrado or when we had Reece James, I would switch Aspi to that left side, which is why here I show him with 94 pace instead of his 98 pace, I believe, when he has max chem. And obviously, as you can see on the two prices of those cards, they're very, very cheap, but they are about as reliable as you would expect from those kind of cards, especially in the new power curve that we're in right now. And so we can only compare Ashley Cole to those two because we never really used any other Chelsea left backs. Marcos Alonso doesn't have a good card, and Emerson is in Lyon, so it's kind of difficult to actually link him into the team at all. This is the section of Futbin that allows you to see what other cards are similar to the one you're currently looking at. And obviously, since we're looking at Ashley Cole, we got to see what Futbin thinks are cards that are very similar to him. But before we get into that, we have to look at Ashley Cole's price. The bottom is the market price. He's around 450. He might be lower, might be higher, depends on the supply during the day. And obviously, as time goes on, he'll be cheaper because of the fact that the icon moments cards will be in packs until the end of the game, so his price will always be fluctuating. The top price, which is the 455k, is his SBC price, which obviously is the price if you're going from scratch. So, taking a look at the other cards, Ashley Cole's Prime card is about half off, and then you have other options like Roussillon, Hernandez, Gunter, Robertson, Tierney, etc., and these are all much cheaper options if you're looking to get a left back. There are a lot of Prem options. There's a Serie A option, 2 Bundesliga options, and 3 La Liga options, and obviously you have Roberto Carlos, who's another option at left back. And just to clarify on the prices, the Prime version, it says 700k, so hopefully the font doesn't confuse you for 100k. He is not 100k, he is 700k, and his mid is about 550. His baby is 360, because obviously the babies are either useless or have no supply, and people are just getting rid of those cards. But if you are on the fence of getting Ashley Cole, I would probably suggest, or strongly suggest, that you stay away from the SBC unless you are a Arsenal fan or a Chelsea fan, or you're doing some kind of past and present Roma team or a derby team or whatever. That's when I would probably suggest you do him. But if you're not doing that, if you're just doing meta, or if you're just making a fun team and you don't really have those kinds of assets, then there are very much a plethora of cheaper options. And the fact that team of the season is in 2 to 3 weeks, I would say the wait is much more important than completing this Ashley Cole SBC. So now that we have the prices over, we're going to get straight into what I think of this Ashley Cole. So, as you can see, when I did record these qualification matches, I try to look at everything that I could look at for a left back. Obviously, there is a lack of statistics, I would say, for these kinds of players, because of the fact that their assists and goals are still kind of the main part for all players, even the goalkeeper. But I did look at the passing and the possession and basically his heat map to see where he was most of the time. Obviously, if the heat map shows that he's near the halfway line, that's just because of a lot of the action had my team pushed up, and there's not really much gameplay that I could record that included Ashley Cole. There was one game where I did send in a cross to Drogba, and the cross never made it to him. It was a little bit short, so I'll definitely have a look back at his passing to see if there is anything that could be improved. Taking a look at his stats right now on my screen, his vision is at 81 and his long passing is at 82, so that could explain the lack of crosses that come in. But obviously at the same time, I'm not too bothered with those problems necessarily, because my fullbacks don't tend to be the ones to make those crosses. I don't tend to score a lot of headers. If I do, I tend to make the cross near the 6-yard box or just outside the main box of my opponent. There isn't really much to have Ashley Cole do. Obviously, him being a fullback, the most important part is that he's able to defend, and in my opinion, he is a very good defender. I would say his pace is good enough. Obviously, with the shadow, it puts him at a max of 99, and he's able to come back from very high positions, especially from corners. I need players to be able to shift back really quickly so that being caught on the counter isn't as detrimental. And there are some moments where Ashley Cole does remind me a little bit of Azpilicueta, where they would be in their left back position because I have them stay there, and sometimes they will shift inward and try to be between both center backs, so they would start acting like a third center back in the middle, or sometimes they would be shifting with the center back. So like, for example, Rudiger would shift outward to try to cover one of the players, while Ashley Cole would shift in to swap with him. And obviously, a good defender will make sure to cover the spaces that are left behind. I would say the only problem that isn't necessarily with Ashley Cole is the fact that his coverage of positions caused him to move into areas I don't want him to. In previous FIFAs, I don't know if this was down to the specific directions or instructions I had on fullbacks, but there would be a time where I would have my center mids move up the field, and the fullbacks would come in to basically cover that position, and it would lead us into being counterattacked a lot more often because there was no fullback to cover his own space, because there would just be two center backs. The center mids would be pushed up, the strikers and the cam are always on staying forward, so the counterattack would literally be a like 4v2 or a 5v2, and that would be very much a dangerous thing to have happen during games. And I think with the instructions I have on Ashley Cole, he's pretty much a rock in that back. I don't think there could be any other card that would have to come out in order to replace him. Maybe an Alonso that looks absolutely cracked, but then again, that Alonso card may be better off in the center mid role, as they call it. But obviously, that all depends on whether EA Sports will issue a card like that, which I doubt, given the circumstances of the club and the image and everything they want to maintain. So there's a lot of good stuff with this Ashley Cole. For 455k, I don't know if I would splash the cash for a fullback like that. Obviously, like I said before, there are a lot other cheaper options, so it would be better if you guys were to stick with those for the time being. With team of the season around the corner, there's gonna be much more options in that left back position, in that left wing back position, that will come at a much cheaper price just because of the amount of supply that those team of the season cards will have. So it's better to save your coins if you are liquid right now. If you have the assets, I would suggest you do him. However, maybe you want to hold on for another SBC that comes out. But yeah, that's going to be it. There's not much else I can say about Ashley Cole. He's pretty good for me. I already showed you guys the prices of him compared to others, and I've shown a bit of gameplay, but obviously the gameplay was showing more of the goals and highlights. And obviously maybe you can look at the score lines to see how much of a clean sheet, how many clean sheets we got in those 4 games. So that would be another big thing that Ashley Cole is involved in, because we love to keep our clean sheets. And you know, I think our defense is complete with Ashley Cole in the back, so there's not much else for me to say. This is going to be the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for watching. If you watched all the way through, if you want to know more opinions on Ashley Cole, maybe try him out yourself. If you have a abundance of fodder, I mean, I know a lot of you have made the Mbappe Player of the Month SBC, so you guys might be dry out of fodder, so it might not be a good option. But I like him. Maybe we do another player review if you guys like this. I will see you guys in another video. Peace.